Have I too with Abla. So today's video is going to be kind of like podcast style, and I'm probably going to be doing more of these style of videos. And I just want to talk today about so-called Black people, African persons that are melanated, our relationship with food. And I made a blog post about this on Tumblr. You can follow my Tumblr. I will link it in the description. So I made a blog post about this because I realized that I myself, I've been plant-based, that label plant-based, so to speak, for, let me see, since about 2019. And I'm still healing my relationship with food as a so-called Black person and a woman at that. And females have a huge responsibility when it comes to food, because you are choosing the food and preparing food for your family. So the females are pretty much preparing the menu. So I realized I'm still healing my relationship with food. And what brought me to this is I was just on Facebook and I had seen this recipe for cinnamon pine cones. And the first thing that came to my mind was like, oh no, this is white people food. And it just did not look like food to me. I can see that as medicine. As Black people, I'm going to keep using that label, Black people, but it's just a label. Us Black persons, we, although we might have a difficult relationship with food at times, we still are somehow, we hold on to that root of being herbalist in a way. Like Black people, we don't play with our medicines, not just the fake Babylon medicine thing. I'm talking about herbs and preparing different things for the purpose of healing. Even Black persons that may think they've lost their culture, maybe their African culture, whatever other culture. You don't have to be African. Even in the States, so to speak, there's still that knowledge of different healing herbs and things like that. So when I looked at that thing, that picture of cinnamon pine cones, I'm thinking, oh, this must be tea. This must be some chai. I was not thinking that was a meal. I was thinking, oh, if that's a meal, that's a white person meal. That's Caucasian food. And it just led me to realize, because the comments were saying, yeah, pine cones are edible. Like, this is very healthy. This is very nutritious, very beneficial for your body. Pine cones are edible and they are good for you, which I never knew. And when I think about it, they might be like artichokes. I've also never eaten artichokes, but those are also good for you. But they look similar to me, and they both look like white people food to me. And that's my issue. And that's our issue as Black people. So it got me to realize that as Black people, a lot of the times we focus on flavor and like how things taste rather than their value. Thinking about myself, like I can't really eat bland food. It feels like I start feeling like just like a video game character, putting like bland things in my mouth and chewing and swallowing. I'm like, I just have a difficult time eating bland food and eating dry food. Eating dry food makes sense because obviously we want hydration. We want to be hydrated. But the thing of extra seasonings and over seasonings, and in the States they have a bunch of different seasonings, aisles and aisles worth of seasonings. And Black people have pantries and pantries worth of seasonings, and we don't even know what's inside of those things. But it makes the food taste good. So that food with all the seasonings and all the oil and the grease, even not just like so-called food from the States and stuff like that, not just that, even like so-called African food. You can think of the different like stews they make in West Africa, East Africa, North, South Africa. Has a lot of flavor. Sometimes it's naturally flavored with like fresh things, which is best. But sometimes, again, it's all those powdered seasonings, which is more common in the West, I would say, but it still happens on the continent. Those powdered seasonings, those manufactured artificial seasonings. And then still, why are we so like, why do we need all of these seasonings and flavor and things like that when other persons value the value of food and the content and the components of the food more so than just how it tastes. How it tastes is just like the surface level of that food. What is on the inside, like the components, literally you can think of like the chemistry, the makeup of the food in compatibility and in comparison with our bodies is what is more important. It's not about the flavor. And I'm just relearning that myself. And I'm not just talking about white people. I'm not saying white people are doing it right, because actually native food is not very flavorful at all. I've eaten some food that has been gathered by native persons, indigenous persons, gathered, such as tubers and things like that they eat, and different fruits, different berries. Even had certain drinks, and nothing that I have had is extremely flavorful. Nothing is really tastes like something that us Black people would like to eat. In fact, sometimes it's even bitter, because bitter things are actually good for the body. It could be medicinal and nutritional. So it's not just that white people are doing it right and they know how to eat better than Black people. No, I'm saying native persons, their food doesn't even have all this flavor and all this extra stuff to spruce it up. Food is to be of value to the body, and that is a part of native knowledge, that we are eating not for this satisfaction and not for all these flavors and not to get these endorphins and this pleasure in our mind. That's not why we are eating. We're eating for sustenance. So when we're eating for sustenance and we're eating for life, we focus on the value of that food. What value is that food bringing to my body? What type of nutrients are in that food that my body wants, my body craves? And then when you focus on that and you eat for value, your body starts then craving those foods that are valuable. Your body will crave minerals and crave the certain things that are in bitter foods. Your body now, when we are eating things that just taste good, our body's craving those things that taste good. We're craving the sugar, we're craving the salt, we're craving the oil, because of the hormones that are released when we get the happiness, the pleasure that we feel when we get something that tastes good. Or you drink soda and it is sugary and bubbly and makes you feel not even hydrated, but I guess it's those hormones. It's those happiness hormones that we're after. Food can release those happiness hormones, but that's not the purpose of food. And that's where us Black people have an issue, because we be dancing when we get food, because those hormones, those happiness hormones release from all the flavorfulness and the pleasure that food brings. So like I said, in native cultures, you're eating for sustenance. You're not eating so you can be dancing about the sugar and salt that your brain is hooked on, your body is hooked on. You're eating for the mineral value and the everything that is in that food from the earth that is provided by the Most High. You're eating to be sustained by what the Most High has built you and created you to be sustained by. And it obviously got me thinking into how us humans, we just always want to do our own thing. Like, the Most High gave us a piece of Him, a piece of the Creator, a piece of that light is within us. And that's why we kind of have gone off the rails, because we become our own creators, and we think the food that has been provided, the sustenance that has been provided by the earth and nature, like say foraging and gathering, the food you can find through that is not enough. It's not tasty, it's not delicious, has no seasonings. So we go and create seasonings. Even though even in nature you can find flavorful things. I find wild garlic all the time. I find wild garlic, and it has these purple flowers on it, and I always notice it, and it is still strong like garlic. We love to use garlic and onions in seasoning, but the earth and the Most High have already provided what we need. But the issue is that we think we need more than what we actually need. We want too much and we desire too much, and now we've become addicted to these things like sugar and salt. And so we're addicted to food. Even like I said on the God Tonight, we are addicted to even just the meat, the flavor of the meat. Addicted to the oils, even if it's native, like natural oil, like palm oil. Addicted to the oils. We don't need all those things. They can be of value, but we must not overuse them, because when we overuse them and our relationship with food becomes almost like an obsession, it's not just about sustenance anymore. Like I said, it becomes an addiction. So I just been thinking about that, about the value of food and being more intentional and why I want to eat something. Like, I always want to start asking myself, okay, why do I want to eat this? Is this of value to my body? Is this nutritious? Or is it just me kind of craving sugar or salt, or me just being used to something, me wanting to eat something that may resonate with that West African palate or that East African palate, something that isn't actually normal for my body to be craving. I always want to make sure and check, even being plant-based, check that what we're wanting to eat is not just our want, but it's our body's need. So yeah, working on that presently. It can be so easy to just drink a sugary drink. It can be so easy to eat even vegan snacks that look good, but they're not really good. Just because they don't contain like dairy or egg or things like that doesn't mean they're nutritional, because they can contain other chemicals, and those other artificial chemicals also add to the confusion in our brains and the confusion we have about food. So yeah, that is what I want to talk about today. And like I said, myself, I need to be very present in this, because not just as a female preparing food for the family, but I'm also setting example for younger females on what we need to be eating and how our relationship with food needs to be. When you see a mother, her health habits and the way her body might look because of those health habits is often also reflected through her children. So yeah, that is what I want to talk about today. We need to, as melanated persons who have that light of creation in us, that's what we get caught up on every time. We always, because we have that piece of creation in us, we're always wanting to kind of spruce up life, I guess. We're into too much. But we need to keep it simple and focus on and remember the purpose of life. We need to get rid of all these addictions that are harming us more than helping us. So yeah, that's what I've been meditating on, and I wanted to share today that pine cones are edible. Who knew? I'm sure some native groups actually knew that, because the things they be digging up in the ground and gathering and foraging very well resemble pine cones. But obviously, where I was, the culture I was grown in and from the Godtenet, it's not as connected to our indigenous practices such as gathering and foraging. Culture I came from became farmers, so we don't eat pine cones. But yeah, like I said, we need to be very present in this, and especially being this label of plant-based, it's not enough. We need to be more than plant-based. Like, we just need to, I know this is so cliche to say, but we need to eat to live. Very cliche thing to say, but we need to eat to live, and we need to stop with trying to do too much with the flavors and the spices and all that, because simple is best. That's why the mineral packed things, like I said, the things that are nutritious, they are simple tasting. they're not extreme. Yes, I hope everyone has a blissful day. God, I heal, I grow, I bye.